I see your point with a lot of things. Like, I see why you have leverage. I'm just trying to get to a point where it makes sense for me to have leverage.
Yeah.
Like, because again, if I do it right now, it's going to be like being kicked in the balls.
You're checking out the Investor Shed podcast with Nick Beveridge and Jeremy Kitchen. They're on the path to financial freedom, and they're taking their community with them. Stay tuned for the best free real estate investing advice on the internet.
Welcome back to the Investor Shed podcast. I am Nick Beveridge, and I am here with the co-host, with his mouth open, Mr. Dave Ramsey. Hi.
Mr. Mouth Open Dave Ramsey. It's Jeremy Kitchen at your service. Hello. Nick, how we doing today?
Good. You can call me Robert Kiyosaki.
No, thank you.
Okay, you don't have to.
The reason why we're talking about Dave Ramsey and Robert Kiyosaki today is because we're talking about the differences between using leverage and having a savings mindset. Nick and I go back and forth. We don't get angry at each other.
Not at all.
Not one bit.
No.
You're going to love the episode. We talk about retirement accounts, savings accounts, using leverage with other people, resources, how we both plan on getting ahead in life. We have differences, but we can still come together and love each other at the end of the day. So
This episode's like a full house at the end.
it is like a full house at the end.
But we do talk about debt and cars, and it's awesome.
Yeah.
So
Debt and cars is awesome. Take a look.
love debt and cars. Yeah, you guys are going to love this episode. But before we go, what did you have for Super Bowl food yesterday?
What did I have? I didn't go to the Super Bowl party. You know what I did? I made chicken Alfredo in the crock pot.
Chicken Alfredo in a crock pot? Is that even allowed?
Yeah. I have a recipe.
Olive Garden wouldn't do that. They would throw it in the microwave.
They would.
All right. All right, guys. Enjoy your Olive Garden microwave.
Nom, 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 nom. What is up, everybody? Thank you so much for checking out the episode. As usual, if you found this episode useful, please go to Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Leave us a 5-star review and some kind, loving words because we need attention.
We need so much attention. We're not getting it lately.
You're slacking on your attention, giving to us. Give it to us now. We've got a great episode for you today, don't we, Nick?
It's okay.
I think it's pretty damn good. Nick and I are going to be discussing the differences between a savings mindset and a leverage-based mindset.
Yeah, because I think we can relate to both philosophies.
Yep.
I mean, I think I'm naturally more of a risk taker. I go high leverage, and I think naturally you fall into the category of Dave Ramsey.
That's a stretch, but yes, I get where you're going there. So again, we're going to be talking about the differences in mindset. Nick has been notorious for using leverage in his advantage and disadvantages. Sometimes we're going to be going over those in the show. Yeah. Lately, I've been kind of in a what I call the slingshot mentality. So I'm trying to pull back my funds, and then so I can slingshot myself forward. And there is a goal with all this as well. So.
Yeah. And we're not saying anybody in particular is right here. This is just the way I like to choose to live.
Right. Other than me, of course.
Right. Okay. I'm going to say that neither of us are correct.
You're right.
When it comes to you and what you want to do with your money, because this is just a show and it's all for entertainment value.
Right. We are not attorneys. We do not preach financial advice. So please consult with your own attorney if you plan on buying or investing in real estate, and do what makes sense for you.
Now that bullshit's over, I think you guys should leverage to the hills. While you can.
Oh, we're going straight
Get
into
all
it.
the
Okay.
money you can from the bank and go spend it on investments. Just do it. Episode done.
Episode done. Wow, we're not even going to hear opinions on this. Okay, let's break it down a little bit, Nick. So you really think people should be leveraging to the moon right now? Why is that?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I think I should.
Okay. Interesting. And then let's talk about that then as well. So then why should you? What makes you feel like you should?
Because it's worked for me in the past, and it's worked for a lot of people that want to get as wealthy as I do.
Sure.
And they need leverage in multiple capacities.
Right. And I do very much agree. Like, we need to be leveraging people. We need to be leveraging relationships. But we don't need to be over leveraging. And again, like, I don't know how personal we're going to get on this episode, but just taking your story into consideration from the last couple of years.
Yes.
Like, you got over your head.
Right.
And even though you did, you're still comfortable like making new deals and getting new things to happen.
Absolutely, because it got me to that place in the first place.
Sure.
If I never made those risky moves 10 years ago, I would have never have had the pleasure of being able to lose, almost $2 million over the last couple of years
Right.
because I was over leveraged. Now you can overdo a lot of things. I'm not saying go get over leveraged. I'm saying leverage is a great thing when used correctly.
Sure. And with that, I will agree with you 100%. When used correctly is the key terminology here. And my mindset lately, this is kind of where I'm at. Like I'm using savings as a means to get leverage. And what I mean by that is, so, my wife and I, we started our own businesses this year. We're not exactly what you would call financeable on a bank paper,
Yeah, you just started.
Yeah, I just started, and that's okay.
But you guys are both doing well.
Yeah, we're both doing pretty decent, I will say. Like, there's tweaks we can continue making in business, and if you're not making tweaks and and aware of the things that you can change to better yourself, you will stay stagnant, of course, 100%. But again, my philosophy right now is like we do have a little bit of credit card debt. Sam still has some student debts. We have car debt. We have a lot of these things that are almost, sucking away from us right now.
Sure.
And it is very hard to pull forward with these stresses pulling you back.
Yeah. Yeah. Is that more mindset or is that a reality?
That I think that might be more mindset, to be honest with you. But like we invest out of our HELOC a lot. But again, like lately we've been trying not to like use it as a crutch.
Okay.
Right? If this HELOC goes away, what do we have?
Well, you've got everything you've learned.
Everything we've learned, correct. But how is that going to help us to get more assets in the future?
You find good deals and then you get new loans.
I get it. Yes. But if we don't have money to put down 3.5% or 5% or 20% down on a property, how is that going to happen?
If you don't have the money, then you got to get a partner or something.
Sure.
Somebody that has the money. You can figure it out.
Yeah.
Is what I'm saying.
Yes, you can figure it out. Like what I don't want to do with my investing is I don't want to really go find deals.
Okay.
To be honest with you, like I don't want to be the wholesaler. I don't want to be the GC.
Okay.
I want to buy a thing that makes sense, and how I do that is, right now, like buying in the Coeur d'Alene market and putting 3.5% down and trying to get that as a rental does not make sense as a strategy.
Okay.
And that's okay.
Argument here though. But
Yeah,
if you don't have the money and you don't want to operate, you don't want to be the GC, you don't want to do anything, what that can make it very hard to find a deal, because that means you're not willing to do anything or put any money down into something. So sorry, I know I'm,
No, yeah, go ahead.
but this could be a problem if you have this kind of thinking.
Sure.
Like, yeah, real estate investing is going to seem impossible if you go into it with all these, preconceived, this is what I don't want to do, don't want to do this, don't want to do this. And of course you got to be willing to do some things to make a deal happen.
And I agree with you there 100%. What I'm saying though is like what I would like to do, like what makes sense for me, is getting money to have a down payment to buy another investment.
Okay.
Like I really just want almost like a turnkey thing that's pretty much done. I don't want to try to force equity. I just want to find something that works, pay a big chunk of money towards it, get a renter in there, and call it a day. Like that. That's like my next strategy. What I feel in my head is the next thing I should do.
Yeah. So if that's what you decided you want to do, did you reverse engineer your end goal? Like, do you know what kind of investment you want to buy and about how much that investment's going to be and how much of a down payment you're going to need? That way you can set the goal to be on track to hitting that down payment.
Sure.
And then regularly feeding into that weekly or bi-weekly or whatever it takes.
And the strategy has evolved. So I think we're going to dive into it here. Like I started my Roth IRA, of course. So one of the things I am going to do, like I'm going to continue saving money myself so I can buy a property, and then I'm saving money in my Roth so my Roth can buy a property. So I'm kind of split down the middle a little bit, but it's not exactly like I have to put a ton of money in my Roth. Contribution limits are $7,000 a year. I can put $7,000 in real quick on that thing. Just been doing private notes on that, basically, trying to get that moved up, right? So the quicker that starts moving, the quicker that funnel starts flowing, the quicker I can buy a property in my IRA and have it perform.
Okay.
Right.
Quick quick side note on that. We're going to get away from our argument, and I want your advice.
Yeah, of course.
Since you do know a lot about this right now. So an opportunity came up last week. It's a deal out in Tennessee.
Okay.
It's a newer construction house, and it's a sub 2 opportunity, and it needs about 35 grand to jump into the deal. And my wife and I were looking at it, and she's got like 40 grand in her regular 401k from an old job that she had years ago. And I was thinking, hey, what if she can transfer that into a Roth self-directed IRA or something like that, and then use that money as the seed money for this house, and then that can be our like a part of our retirement. Is that something like that possible?
You and without getting too much into the weeds with this, it depends on what you plan on doing with it. If you put it in with your Roth, that means no personal money can ever come from you guys out of that deal. It has to all come from that Roth. So yes,
if that house needs a roof someday,
you better have money in that Roth account, because it's not you that owns this house. It's your retirement account that owns this house.
Interesting. So puts a lot of limits on you then.
It does put some limits on, but that's why if you just know the limits, you're able to navigate accordingly with the limits, right? So with the limits on a Roth IRA, and you're going to buy real estate, specifically a self-directed one, excuse me. You can't meddle with your own personal funds unless you partner with yourself on that. But it'll has to be pro beta or pro forma, I think is what it's called.
Okay.
And that means, if your IRA puts in $20,000, you personally have to put in $20,000 to match it, or your percentages have to match up, however that's divvied up. So it just has to be, if a contribution's made, you need to be putting in X, and so does your Roth.
Okay.
And with that, they have to be non-recourse loans, so they're not personally guaranteed. It's basically just very heavily, not leveraged, but
so this would just be a sub 2.
Yeah,
we would just be taking it over. Nobody's applying for a loan here.
I don't know if that works in an IRA.
At the same time, I'd want to transfer the ownership into a trust.
Right. Well, an IRA is a trust.
IRA is a trust.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It's a direct.
Could it be named in the previous owners? Could it?
That's a good question. Okay. I would say, honestly, talk to an attorney or talk to somebody. Talk to Matt Sorensen, honestly. Okay. He does this stuff. Set up a consultation with these people who do that. I haven't done it, so I can't say yes or no.
Yeah. It's something that we've been really considering, because it's just so funny. I just get so aggravated with these stupid freaking retirement accounts.
I know you do.
That just sit out there and lose money every year.
Sure.
And I don't understand it. I remember buying into a Roth IRA in this index fund with Vanguard, took all the advice.
Right.
And I put a little bit of money into it, but I did this back in 2016 or 2017, and I let it ride for a couple of years. And it had less money in it than when I started it, and it was just eating in fees and stuff. And I could not believe that happened during a huge run-up of the economy.
Sure.
That I would actually lose money in this retirement account. And I took it out, and I was just like, F this.
Yeah.
I am just going... why put so many restrictions on myself, too?
Sure.
Just to get marginal returns that ended up being negative during one of the biggest run-ups in the U.S. economy history.
Now...
And...
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
And sorry, I'm going, this was my own experience. I know everybody has a different experience with different types of funds out there and stuff like this, but this just got me upset.
Sure.
Because I just felt like I was getting taken advantage of by these larger companies that were just using my money to make money, and then they would, take their fees, and the returns were less than the fees.
Sure.
And this was a highly reputable company.
Right. Go ahead. Just for context, how much money did you have in index stocks?
It's only a couple $1,000.
Right.
And I was just testing the waters.
Sure.
And I'm glad I didn't put more than that.
I get it, and I understand completely where you're at on that. Is that why you have such an aversion to IRA and retirement accounts in general?
No.
Okay.
No, that's just 1/5 of the reasons.
Right. And anyone who's trying to put money in a retirement account, I will say the goal is long term. The goal is not a short term gain. Be that as you may, you lost money, you had a bad experience with it. I totally get that. My favorite thing about the self-directed IRAs, right? They're not investing into mutual funds, they're not investing into stocks, they're not investing into bonds. They basically say, here's the keys to your IRA. What do you want to buy with it? You can buy anything you want that's not a collectible or life insurance.
Right.
Right. So like
And that, even at that, like, okay, here you go. You can still, like, somebody's going to tell you what you can and can't do with your money. And,
Sure.
and it's highly regulated.
it is very highly regulated. It is also tax-free gains.
Right. But if you're investing regularly, read the book Tax-Free Wealth by Tom Wheelwright. You shouldn't have to be really paying any taxes anyway if you're doing this game correctly.
Not a lot of people are, Nick.
Right.
Okay.
True.
Like I'm going to say
But that's one of the that's the second fifth reason why I don't like retirement accounts.
Sure.
Another reason.
I'm going to so just let me
Yeah, okay, we'll
cut
get
you off
into them
real
later.
quick here. So you and I have made deals before.
Yeah.
Right? Most of the time, and this is all just hypothetical, of course, but this works for me, and this is why I'm telling you about it. I've made deals using my HELOC, right? So when we get money, that's capital gains. When we get capital gains, I pay tax on those capital gains because we have it through a business, and we're not a. My wife and I don't W-2 ourselves. It's just a business that we own, so we end up paying like 33% tax on whatever deals we do. So say we made $15,000.
Yeah.
Right? I'm imagining 5,000 of that's going to the tax guy.
But is it really?
Yes.
I mean, you have other deductions
I have other things
that
to
kind of wipe that away,
to negate
right?
that for sure. Yes,
Yeah.
of course. But to the average person, like on paper, yes, I just lost $5,000. I have other losses that will negate it and balance it out. We try to be as close to zero as we can. But having an account that's specifically for investing, for funds that I can grow, right?
Yeah.
And the cool thing about this, like these are the favorite kind of deals I like. I like putting some money into a deal and getting a return on my deal. It's like the real estate's cool. The real estate side of it's cool. Like I love private lending.
Yeah.
I love it. And this account is all it is. It's a vehicle to help me do that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. It
And that
helps set you
particular
up.
account is specifically tailored for like when I'm partnering with people or for when it gets high enough, I can go get a non-recourse loan. And then when I get a non-recourse loan, I can buy a piece of property, house on it, property management. Everything's just done out of my IRA. I don't have to worry about it anymore.
What you just said right there, I think is what you and a lot of people really enjoy.
Yeah.
I don't have to think about it anymore.
It's that, yeah. It's
And that's and that might be the fundamental difference between the thinking about money between you and I. I love thinking about it.
sure.
I obsess over it.
Yeah.
I can't imagine where I just don't want to even think about my finances anymore.
And
And
yes.
it's just, but that's just me. That's the way I'm wired.
Right. And I will say, like, it's not that I don't care about it because I really do. Like, believe it or
Yeah.
not, I check my savings account every day. I check my IRA every day. I check my bank account every day. I check where my credit cards are at every single day. Like, say I'm obsessed with finances is an accurate statement.
Okay.
But
You didn't used to be.
I did not used to be. You're correct. And that's like part of the story, right? Like, I mean, like what I did the first 33, 34 years of my life didn't work for me.
No.
I did not get ahead one bit. In fact, I drove myself a hole, as a lot of Americans done, because they don't understand the game.
Right.
And again, this IRA account in particular, it's a seed that I'm planting, and the tree does not grow unless you plant the seed. That's all it is.
Yes.
It's one pillar
planting
of what I
seeds.
want to do. This
yeah,
is
and
not,
I totally agree with that.
Yeah, it's one pillar. It does not need to be overly complicated. I throw my $7,000 a year in it. I do some private notes out of it. Once that starts rolling, and then rolling, right? I start doing these deals. Maybe we partner. Maybe I have $30,000 in the account in a couple years. I can help you do a flip. Boom, right? All tax free, and it goes back into this account that is specifically to invest with. That's what I love about it. It's a specific investment account versus, oh, I guess I better take money out of my HELOC, or, oh, I guess I better figure out how to make this deal. Like this money sitting specifically to do deals.
Yes. Yeah. And I love separating my money too.
Sure.
I have, like, you've seen all the bank accounts.
Right.
It's absolutely maddening.
It's pretty mad. You've got a wild amount of accounts, Nick.
But I like to keep my stuff separated too.
Right.
I like to keep, okay, this is for investments. This is for a piece of land here. This is for this. This is for this business. This is for this partnership. This is for this partnership. And the list goes on and on and on.
I think that's great.
And that's just, that was a habit I formed a long time ago, like early adulthood.
Right.
And it came from it actually came from Robert Kiyosaki's book, believe it or not.
Which one?
The first one, Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Okay, yeah,
He said
yeah.
if you want to get wealthy, you need to have 3 piggy banks. The first one is for savings. The second one is for investing. And
Donations.
the third one, donations.
Yep. I just read Rich Kid, Smart Kid by Robert Kiyosaki. He preaches the same topics. So, yeah.
Yeah. And if you can get in that habit of every time money comes in, you send a certain percentage to these other accounts. And then I'll leave my one account for paying bills and stuff. But
Sure. Now I have to ask you a question. So since you heard of obviously the 3 accounts you should have with Kiyosaki, savings, investings, and donations, do you contribute to all those?
Yeah.
You contribute to your savings?
Yes.
You do?
Very little. But yes.
That's okay.
Uh-huh.
And again, like this is where like there's differences in these mindsets, and that's okay. Like 100%. I think what you're doing works for you. I think what I'm doing works for me right now.
Yeah.
And that's what's important. Like you need to be the own judge of your own finances. You need to really realize like what is my goal, what am I trying to accomplish, and what vehicle is going to get me there. Right now, my goal, and again, like this is a little bit of a pullback. It's to pay off all my shitty debt.
That's not a lot of people agree with you there.
Yeah.
Even the ones that leverage heavily.
Right.
There's different types of debts.
And yes, I agree. But like again, like on a personal standpoint, like we're going through our finances, and I'm like, I'm paying about $500 a month in credit card interest. Not to mention,
Lucky you.
Yeah, right. That's not even a lot. But like, I pay $500 a month in credit card interest. That's not even with my minimum payments or anything like that. That's just like interest.
Yeah.
So it's close to like probably $1,200 a month in credit card payments. And in my head, I'm like, if I can knock that out,
Yep.
like, and if I can stop everything I'm doing, if I can just take one big swing, one big haymaker at my debt, it's going to propel me even further into the future.
Right.
So that's where my savings mentality is right now. My savings mentality is meant to be, this is the start of how to invest better. Right? Because then once I start getting that money and, again, I can go find deals, I can go do all these things, but I'm pretty busy, dude. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
And it's not a bad thing. It's just like, where's my time being spent? How can I spend it better? If I pay off these debts, is it going to push me towards the goal of getting more properties? And the answer is yes.
Yeah. Yeah, you're pretty busy. I mean, you may not believe it out there, but this guy, he's doing a podcast regularly. He runs a media company. He does hard money lending.
Yep.
He's a new father.
Yep.
And his wife also has a newish business
Yeah.
that he supports.
Yeah.
I can keep going, but I understand you're a busy guy.
Right.
You're not playing as many video games as you used to.
That's true. I don't think you are either, unless you count VR.
No, but I started weekends. Started playing more Xbox.
Ooh, okay. We'll have to talk about that.
But it's with my kids and stuff. We have fun.
Right. And anyway, like I said, like I'm 36 right now, and this is vulnerable sharing. Like I don't have an emergency fund.
Oh no.
I'm dead serious. Like,
Well,
I don't
you have a credit card?
Yes, I have a credit card.
You have a HELOC too.
I do.
Well, I think you're okay.
Okay, thank you. Yes, I'm okay, but
that's me.
right
That's not.
now here's
that's
the
not
thing.
Dave Ramsey.
I am okay. Yes, I'm not struggling for money. I am okay, but I want to be better than okay, Nick.
Oh,
I want to be in a better situation than okay.
Good point.
Right. So
You want to be thriving,
I want
or
to be
do you
thriving.
want to be secure?
I want to be secure so I can thrive better.
Okay, so you feel like you got to be secure first.
In my head, yes. I mean, like, you've been an investor for a long time. Like, the deals that I invest in are typically ones that come, like, shooting across the breeze to me. And that's okay. I get to say yes or no on the things that I want.
Yeah.
Again, like, we're using our HELOC to do a lot of investing, which some of the deals we have out, like, we don't get paid a monthly fee back. We just get paid when the deal's done.
Yeah.
So that's just me making another payment right now, which is hard sometimes.
Yep.
It's just one other buzzing hornet next to your head. You're like, I just want to kill that fucking hornet.
Yeah.
And again, the point of this is obviously real estate investing is the goal, but the vehicle I'm choosing to get there is not over leveraging myself or my time.
Mm-hmm.
And again, we can have disagreements on this because I think it's really healthy that we can have different altering opinions.
Well, I think I mean, I don't think we have to try to convince one or the other.
I don't have to
who's
convince you.
right.
I have to convince
it's
me.
just your personality.
Right.
It's how, like you said it, you want to get secure first before you can thrive.
Right.
And the way I've kind of gone through business and life, I feel like I can always just make more income.
Sure.
To solve my problems versus focusing on paying off debts, which I've done that too. I go back and forth.
I was going to say, like, this last year, you have been really focused on paying off your debts.
Yes.
So for you
and
to say
because of that, income gone down because I've put a lot of focus into saving money.
Sure. But what you're saying is you could have made more money to pay down your debts faster is what you're saying, right?
Well, I mean, I don't know what would have happened because I only went down one direction, and I can only tell you my experience thus far.
Right.
You know, the last 6-8 months.
Sure.
I've been primarily focusing not as much on creating income, but just reducing expenses.
Sure.
And I felt like I've kind of plateaued. There's not much more I can cut except for a couple of properties that I have to sell.
Sure.
And then, but I have recently, the last few weeks, started stepping up huge in production. Now, prospect heavy when it comes to my real estate sales game.
Right.
And, you know, we're dialing back into our database and like focusing on, we got to make a lot of money this year because I still, I have a lot of goals, still have a lot of people to pay off. Still got a lot to do.
Sure.
And I know that leveraging got me to where I am, leveraging heavy. Leveraging a little too heavy got me a little bit further than I needed to go.
Sure. Yeah.
Because I wasn't ready for it. Bit off more than I can chew. So it wasn't necessarily just the over leveraged.
Sure.
It was also there was more to it than that. You know, we've talked in private about ran into some criminals that kind of
and I'm going to cut you there real quick. Sorry to cut you off, but and again, like you are one of the closest people in my life, so I see everything you're going through. Again, I saw this may have been part of the mindset shift. Honestly, like I saw the trouble you got in.
Yeah.
And you're able to do that because you have all these assets and you have all these things that can kind of carry you. I don't, right? So me being in that kind of business you were in would have sunk me.
Right.
So what I'm trying to do,
I would have been better. You know, in some people's eyes, I would have been better if I just claimed bankruptcy or something like that. Then I wouldn't have had to maybe lose everything.
Right. You're a man of integrity, and I don't think that would have. I don't even think that was on your radar, to be honest with you. Am I wrong?
No, it was always a little hunch.
Sure. Okay.
And then that hunch got bigger and bigger until it was obvious.
Right.
Yeah. But I could have been I overdid it though. Like I got into too many projects.
Yeah.
And that's what skewed my judgment.
Right.
Because I had to start relying on people to do things for the house of cards to stay up.
Sure.
So, yeah. And I know we're talking vague terms. There's probably a lot of people that have no idea what we're talking about, and that's fine.
That's okay.
We'll save it for a future episode when lawsuits are settled.
Again, like these are conversations I've had with my wife, and these are just things that work for us. Again, like yes, we have our HELOC. We've got like $100 and some thousand minus whatever projects you got going, and I got some other stuff going out of it. But like, if we were to buy a house, hypothetically, right? So if we were to buy a house with our HELOC, that's coming out at 8.75% right now.
Yeah.
So if we were to use debt to leverage a down payment, that would be very difficult to get out of that hole.
In that scenario. With that interest rate. Totally agree.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's,
so I'm not saying I'm not saying it's always green light.
Right.
I'm just saying leveraging where you can when it makes sense. Most of the time makes sense. And a lot of this goes back to like how the economy actually works, how money actually works, and inflation. And you got to try to stay ahead like 13% or more annually just to get ahead of inflation.
Sure.
And I find that math very hard to do if you're trying to save your way to retirement.
Sure. And yeah, I will agree with you. It's hard. But again, the point I was going to make, like, so we were trying to reverse engineer this problem that we have. The problem that we have is like, okay, we want to buy another rental or we want to buy a house, right? How do we do that? We can use the HELOC. Okay, what does that look like? We have to pay 9% interest on the HELOC for the down payment. Say the down payment's $100,000, right? Over a year annualized, that's $9,000 interest, plus the interest that we get on the house, right? So does that mean whatever we find has to make sense and be able to pay both these bills? And there's not a lot out there that will do that. We're using very heavy debt and very again, we're not approved for anything. So like,
Yeah.
right now it's like reverse engineering. Like, how do we get approved? How do we go back?
Have you started looking in other markets where it does make sense to use your HELOC and get like a DSCR loan
Yes,
or
we have.
bank statement loan, and the numbers actually are positive?
I've looked. I haven't found a lot that really wets my palate yet, to be honest with you.
Okay.
Yes, we went and we looked at some DSCR loans with Andy Bird at Willamette Valley Bank. See what it all looks like. Okay, those are going to be like 10.5%, so those are kind of expensive too, right? They're not like your typical conventional loan where it's 6%. It's so we're paying 11% debt over here, almost 9% debt over here.
But how long ago did you check into that? Because rates have come down since.
It was probably 6 months ago. So
Yeah, rates have come down since then.
And again, just like, yes, I can go like analyze other markets. The things I'm looking for are not high appreciation markets. They're pretty just cash flow straight, honestly. Like the deal would be, the play right now, if we were to do anything, would be pretty much a break-even play for the first 5 to 10 years.
Okay.
While we like put money into that HELOC to negate that.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Because we only have 8 more years on that, and then we have to pay principal and interest.
Gotcha. So what once worked for you really well, that HELOC at a low interest rate when everything was lower and there were more opportunities.
Yeah.
Now is it still kind of the one thing that you look at when looking at an opportunity is your HELOC, or can you finally kind of put that to the side and figure out other ways?
The plan, and that's why all these savings and other accounts come into play, Nick. That's exactly what I'm trying to do.
Okay.
I'm trying to get away from using my HELOC as a crutch. That's all I'm trying to do.
Yeah, because it sounds like it is a stupid crutch.
It is a stupid crutch. Like
Stupid HELOC with your high interest rate. Thanks a lot, Numerica.
Yeah, thanks a lot, jackasses. No, but like just,
Jacking up his...
just putting this into context. You and I have a deal out right now, and I'm going to be vulnerable about the numbers.
Go ahead.
It's not a big deal, but we have a $40,000 note out on my HELOC.
Yeah, you let me carry it over from another project.
Right. So you're paying me 12% annualized interest.
Yep, $400 a month.
Right. Now, hear me out. 12% minus 8.75.
That is 3.25.
3.25. That's what we're making on that.
Okay.
Plus, we have to get taxed on that because that's capital gains.
Okay.
Right. So if you look at the deal how it sits right now, it's not a good deal. There's nothing wrong with that. Now, here's where I'm just trying to get at, right? So, like, if I have my own funds, IRA specifically, I can charge you 8.
Right.
And get 8.
You'd make more money
I'd make more money.
with your own money.
Precisely what I'm trying to do.
Sure.
And
But the
then-
HELOC's not yours.
The HELOC's not mine, correct.
Infinite returns.
Infinite returns, you are correct.
Now, that's something I think maybe my mind is a little bit different when it comes to yours and some other people. When I hear that, I think, okay, cool. This HELOC money, which isn't yours, you're lending it. You're making a small amount, 3.25, but that's unlimited. That's infinite returns because it wasn't your money.
I agree with you there. But it also ties up money that we could have been investing into a different deal.
Sure. Getting more than 12%.
Putting a down payment on something, right? Like, there's percentage-wise, it just doesn't make sense right now to use it as a tool unless I'm making more than that.
Right.
Like, a deal just came back through my plate the other day for 15% returns plus ownership in the mobile home park.
Okay.
So I put in $25,000 into this fund, hypothetically. I get 15% annualized returns, so after the HELOC, I'm making about 7. And when they sell, I get ownership and stake in it.
How much ownership?
Depends on how much I put in. They're looking for $300,000. If I put in, it's $300,000 for 40% equity. So if I put in $25,000, probably 7% ownership or 6% ownership. But that's cool, right? Like, that's more than I would have been making. And I'm still considering that deal, of course. Like, using my HELOC for that would make kind of sense.
Okay.
I'm just trying to run the numbers a little bit more. He sent me the underwriting the other day, but
Okay, cool.
anyway, that's just the deal that I'm like, oh, I could do that, right?
Yeah.
That one would make sense.
Yeah.
It would be a 5-year return, so I'd get paid double what my interest rate is, and I doubt that HELOC interest rate's going to go higher than 8.75. It could go back down. I don't think they do, though.
Yeah. Now, can you go to this bank and say, hey, can you up my HELOC, my line?
Good question. I'm going to say no.
Okay.
The reason being is because
It's
when
tied to the equity.
It's tied to the equity, right? And
That
we
no
got
longer
it.
is there.
That is no longer there correctly, right? We got it. Our house house appraised at 520 something. Nowadays, it would probably appraise at like 450.
Yeah. Yeah. You
So,
caught,
like,
you
it's-
caught him at a good time.
Yeah. So trying to go and renegotiate this thing would probably shoot us in the foot.
Okay.
But right now, the payments are being made. Like, it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
But I just think, yes, you are right. It's infinite returns, which is great. I love that. But I want the capability to do more and make more. The HELOC will still make sense for certain deals.
Yep.
But having, an IRA specifically for investing also makes sense to me.
Okay. Cool. Well, as soon as this development pays off, which should be this month, then you can have that 40 grand back.
See, and that's the thing. Like, I'm not even worried about the money
Yeah.
right now because, like you said, the money's being paid by you.
Yeah.
But there have been deals where we haven't done that.
Yeah. And you're making the payments.
Right, and I'm making the payments,
Yeah.
which is fine. But like, I just need to be smarter about how we use this tool that we have,
Okay.
and that's where we're at right now. We don't want to use the HELOC as a crutch, because we don't want to be over our head in equity tied to our personal finance.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And again, like trying to reverse engineer these things, I'm like, okay, what do we need? How do we get there? And it all comes down to like, I can make more money, I can pay off more debt, I can save more money,
Okay. What's your first strategy?
make more money,
Okay. And
and then pay off more debts.
there you go.
I'm kind of paying off debt and saving at the same time.
The philosophy in this book is to buy real estate with debt.
Yeah.
And then work on paying off that debt quickly.
Right.
With most of the cash flow.
Right. Reinvesting it and refunneling it. And I know you and I have a deal where we were talking about, trying to pay off some of that that principal amount too. With
Yeah.
Violet.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm. It just didn't make sense at the time, of course.
Yeah. But it's
okay.
nice to discuss it here and there.
It is. I think it's
instead of
great.
Just let it linger.
If you have partners, you should always be talking about what you should be going through and how you should be handling things. That's
Interesting concept, isn't it?
it is a weird concept. I love that we're able to talk about these things.
Yeah.
And talk about them logically. And, you wanted to do one thing, and I gave some pushback on that. But I thought for valid reasons. So
Yeah, and you made a good point. You're like, where's all the cash in this account? I'm like, I don't know. And then we had to look into it. It turned out the property manager wasn't collecting the full rent for
Right.
most of the year.
yeah, you're like, do you mind if we pay off 10,000? I'm like, the account doesn't even have 10,000 in it. Like,
Oh, hold on. What is happening?
this should be
We
at
were
like
both
20
like
grand right now.
investigating it. Like, why didn't they tell us?
Yeah.
This what was it? 6-7 months of them
Collecting-
not making the full payment.
Yeah,
and they
collecting
didn't even
partial
tell us.
payments.
They're like, oh, sorry.
Yeah. But now I
we're
have
gonna
access
catch
to
it
the
up.
account, so I look at that thing. That is one account I look at every day.
Okay.
Because just part of what I do lately, again, is I look at every single account I own every single day.
Nice.
I look at my life insurance. I look at my savings accounts. I look at my credit cards. I'm like, okay, can I throw an extra $200 towards this? Will that help me towards my goal this month? The answer is yes.
Yeah. Life insurance. You have a life insurance account? What
Yeah.
do you mean? Like you look at the balance
Yeah,
of your
so,
life
so
insurance? How does that work?
I have one for Quinn and I. Obviously, Quinn's is a whole life insurance policy, so hers is going to get a cash value and go up over time.
Quinn's a new person.
She is a brand new person, yes.
When is she so new? Like a
January
month?
14th.
January 14th.
So, yeah, she'll be a month old on,
And she's already got life insurance.
yeah.
Tell us about that.
Well, she's got life insurance.
But other than just like if she were to pass, you get a little bit of payout. But you didn't set it up for those reasons, right? This is more for her,
Right.
It will build a cash value over time, and it was, I'm guessing, pretty cheap.
Yeah,
right?
it wasn't too bad, so I won't go into
Tell us. No, tell us any details you remember. I think people for the
Sure.
3 people that are still listening to this podcast.
I think we're providing a lot of good intel on this, honestly,
Yeah.
because again, like I see your point with a lot of things. Like I see why you have leverage. I'm just trying to get to a point where it makes sense for me to have leverage.
Yeah.
Like because again, if I do it right now, it's going to be like being kicked in the balls.
Hey, quick commercial break here. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. I really do appreciate it. If you want to give back, let me help you buy a house, or I can help you sell a house. It's the only way I make money when I'm not investing in real estate. I don't make money on this podcast or the events I do, but I do make money only when I help people buy and sell houses. So if you're looking for your next investment and you're here in North Idaho, I want to help you personally. If you are not in North Idaho, I can still help you out. I have a vast network of referral partners all across the country in Keller Williams Realty, and I can find the right real estate investor savvy agent for you so you don't have to. It doesn't cost you a thing. Thank you for your support. Back to the show.
And I don't want to do that. I hate getting kicked in the balls. You can quote me on that.
I'm still okay with it.
You're okay with that. I know.
No, I'm just kidding.
So yeah, life insurance.
No, I don't have one of those kinks.
Shout out to Josh Aquila. We had him on the episode. What was it? Probably about a month ago.
Yeah.
He works for Mountain Financial. He does life insurance through Mass Mutual. But he got me and my daughter a screaming deal on policies. I got myself a 10-year plan for $1 million. It's like $42 a month, which is some peace of mind. So if I pass, my wife's going to be okay. And then we set up my daughter with life insurance policy, a whole life policy. Now this one builds a cash value over time. The death benefit's like $200,000, something like that. But really, like, the more you pay into this, and say by, I can't remember the actual numbers, but by year 15, it should have like a $20,000 or $30,000 cash value.
Yeah.
Which is great, you know, and that's
How much is the payment again?
$100 a month.
Okay. Wow. Big swinger.
I guess.
Nice. Yeah, I don't pay that much. But you have it set up for multiple people?
No, I have it set up I have mine set up for myself, and then I have hers set up for her.
Okay. You're paying $100 a month for just her policy?
Yeah. Mine's
Wow.
like 42, so
Wow.
it's actually not too bad.
Okay. Yeah, I don't spend that much. I spend maybe like $20-$30 on my kids' policies each.
Cool.
But they should have cash values in their early 20s of like around 20,000 or so that they can use for college or whatever they, you know, I'm going to recommend down payment on a house.
Right.
Depends on where we are 20 years from now, 15 years from now, like money wise. And that's another one of the reasons why I do encourage and like leverage, is because inflation is just, I mean, there's this game out there that not a lot of people are aware of.
Sure.
Called let's catch up and pass inflation.
Yeah.
In the money supply, because like our dollars are slowly decreasing in value
100%. Yes.
every year.
I agree with you, but that does not mean that I shouldn't not save. Right? Just because my dollar's less doesn't mean I shouldn't have an emergency fund.
Right. And the reason why, but I think our original was like leverage versus security.
Sure.
Like when you have fixed debt, you know, 30-year loan mortgage, for instance, a lot of people don't realize this. But what's happening every single year is that the value of that debt is decreasing.
Yes.
Not just by the principal pay down by your tenants, obviously, but by inflation. The inflation is destroying everybody's wealth. It's destroying stocks, bonds, the value of money, and the value of debt.
Sure.
So when, little example, you know, if you got $170,000 mortgage in 2005.
Okay.
It was the average price point back then. That seemed like a lot. Like today, it would seem like $375,000, almost $200,000 more 20 years ago. But the value that debt didn't go up to that.
Right.
And it's been decreasing every year. The value of it's felt like a smaller payment. You know, if you set up a payment back then for that, it was probably $800. $800 does not feel like much today.
No, it doesn't.
But back then, it felt like today's $1,700 or today's $2,000 payment or whatever. Sorry, it's actually a lot more now today. Today's like $2,500 for an average house payment.
That's a lot.
That's still
very. It's more than that.
Right. For the new people getting in, I feel bad.
Yeah.
But that's just what they're going to have to adjust to. And people are going to get used to it.
Yeah.
I don't think interest rates are going to go back down that quickly to 3 and 4%. Even if they are, prices aren't going to go down because the supply's not there.
No. And if interest rates, you are right. If interest rates go back down to, 3s or 4s, it's going to be a bloodbath in the market.
Yeah, because there's already only 2.5%. There's already 2.5 months of inventory. It's disgusting out there how much is on the shelves.
Yeah.
You know what I did the other day?
What?
Looking at the MLS, trying to get a real good idea. What's the actual inventory like in Kootenai County, where we live? Disgusting.
Yeah.
There's like 358 listings active. And 49% of them were new construction.
Wow. Okay.
And half of those weren't even built yet or to be built. So there was like 180 homes that were available to purchase in Kootenai County. You know how many realtors there are?
2,000 still?
2,000. There's a lot.
Yeah.
So imagine going into a grocery store where there's about 6 shelves in an aisle,
Sure.
and in a normal healthy grocery store supply, the shelves are usually just full,
Right.
but they're not over falling into the ground and so over spilling.
Yeah. Yeah.
When I got started in real estate, there was an oversupply. Imagine going into a grocery store in this is 2010, 2011, but it seemed like every third house was for sale. There was an overabundance of listings.
Yeah.
A lot of supply. So walk through a grocery store and you could barely get through the aisle because there's just so much shit
Yeah.
that's overspilling over the counters. There's these side displays. You can barely walk around. There's too much inventory in the store. And there weren't a lot of agents. So imagine there's only 5 employees walking around the store
Right.
to help you. And there's a lot of stuff going bad. There was a bargain sale back then.
Yeah.
And then over time, what happened was you had more and more employees and less inventory over a decade. And now 2024, it's like if the shelves, in comparison to the actual market, the shelves, there's only, imagine 6 big shelves, and there's 1.5
Right.
shelves that are full of groceries, and the store is full of employees.
That makes
Absolutely
sense.
full.
Yeah.
It's insane what's happening, and most people have no idea
Yeah. Of course.
of the actual situation. But if you were to see the situation in that light, there's 10 times as many agents for how many listings there are
Sure.
active. Oh, and this food,
Yeah.
you grab a piece of celery and it says $200 on it.
Right.
It's
True.
It's overpriced, but you can get a loan for 8%.
Yeah, and that's a really good point, Nick. Like, honestly, and again, like the intent of saving money for me is to push forward my investing career. I'm not saving just to save. Like, I have a goal to do stuff.
Yeah.
Most savers just save for a rainy day. Like, I do believe you should have a rainy day fund, an emergency fund, right? If anything just happens, I want to have $20,000 available to be like, well, here's my money for this just happens money.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm building up.
Trying to save up your blood on the streets money fund. Blood on the streets fund.
Blood on the streets fund, exactly. And whatever you choose, like, I mean, yes, I understand leverage. Yes, I understand saving. It's all up to personal choice. But I think you really just need to be intentional with what your goal is.
Oh, for sure.
Right? Like, if your goal is to save and do nothing, then do that. If your goal is to buy 10 properties, reverse engineer, like Nick said, and just do that, right? Because I don't need to bring capital to every deal. But again, like, I'm in a spot where, I sometimes offer my bodily services on projects, which I will continue to do on projects.
It's been tough lately. It's raining and stuff.
It's been raining, but like, I have to take that into consideration with my returns, right? So if I'm putting my bodily services, we've done that in contracts before. It's really funny.
We don't have the kind of time you do these days.
Right. I don't A, have the amount of time, but B, like, part of my body.
Yeah.
And I'd rather just hire somebody who does it good.
Okay.
But that's where I'm
That's
at
a
right
form
now.
of leverage.
It is a form of leverage. Thank you.
Hey, Jeremy's on our side now.
We did
You
it.
guys
We
know who you
changed it. No, but just being intentional with where you're at, where you're going, and how you're getting there is, it's all open to interpretation. I think you've done a great job with leverage. Again, I saw the last year, and I'm like, I don't ever want to have to go through that.
Right. Yeah, I don't either, and I don't think I will.
Right.
Yeah, I think I know what to anticipate now.
Right.
So I knew what to anticipate being broke and how to get there.
Yeah.
And then I knew what it was like to have too many people working for you.
Sure.
Now I know.
Right.
And then I knew what it was like to have too many projects. Now I know. I knew what it was like to not have enough.
Yeah, that's true.
And I know. So I feel like there's still going to be lots of things to learn.
Sure.
There's always going to be next levels to this game.
Right.
But I'm still, I haven't, I made jokes and stuff about, I'm going to be more conservative now and just with cash only, no leverage, that
Right.
kind of stuff. And sometimes I just talk just to talk. But the truth is, the numbers can work with leverage and higher interest rates if the deal makes sense. if it cash flows.
I
And
agree
it always
with you.
comes back down to, does it cash flow or not?
Right.
This deal that we almost wanted to buy in Tennessee, I had to really sleep on it because it's a great deal. It's sub 2, 3.25% interest rate in a market that I actually really wanted to be in.
What part of Tennessee?
It's in Clarksville.
Okay.
Yeah.
I looked at Nashville a few times and surrounding cities. So.
Yeah, so it was about an hour away from Nashville. And I found it researching with ChatGPT. I wanted to figure out where's the unicorn market, and I gave it all these parameters of decent weather, higher cash flow, lower purchase prices, landlord friendly. The list there's like 20 different criterias, and it popped up a couple options, and one was a little too expensive. This was like number 2, and it just so happened that like a week later, all of a sudden I get this sub 2 deal in my email box. I'm like, this is a sign from Jesus himself.
There you go. Okay. Can we dissect this deal a little bit? Is that
Sure.
okay?
Yeah.
I don't want to go too crazy, and I know,
But what I was getting to was it doesn't cash flow.
okay.
It almost does, but I have to let my emotions go. And what I thought was a sign from God, because it doesn't cash flow. It'll lose a little bit of money, just
Okay.
a couple $100 a month or so.
What would be your plan with it? So
Just keep it as a long-term rental.
okay. So you know how you can make it end up cash flowing is you just put more money into the deal, right?
Well, it's a sub 2 deal.
Right. It's a sub 2, but you can still pay the mortgage. Pay them $35,000. Is it paying the person $35,000 directly?
So you're paying the wholesaler, the realtor, and the seller.
Okay.
And then you're taking over a mortgage balance of like 280 something. The mortgage payment with taxes and insurance and everything is 1680. And I checked with the local property manager, and this is where I had to walk away, was because they were advertising long-term rents at 1700 plus.
Right.
But this local manager that I found on Bigger Pockets, that seemed to be the local expert there, he texted me back that vacancy rates were about 5 to 8%, which I wanted to know about vacancy.
You should know that, absolutely.
And then, let me see here.
So you're just to fill you in while he's looking for it. It was making 1680 a month. It was promised cash flow about 1700, correct?
1700 plus was like what they said that's what the rents should be at least.
When I hear 1700 plus, I put my baseline at 1700. By the way, like don't analyze the deal at 1800. If people are like, oh, this should prove it to me. Prove to me that this rent will be more than what you're saying. Otherwise, I'm analyzing the deal at the lowest possible number. So I would be analyzing this at 1700.
Another thing I loved about this property is newer construction. It's only 2 years old.
Okay.
So it looked like it needed nothing, which was one of my criterias for investing this year. I wanted a newer construction property or renovated that needs no construction, because I'm getting sick of doing construction projects.
I get it, and that's something
And I thought all these, this was fitting every single box, and this unicorn magical market too. But I got this message that said, $1,550 to $1,650 a month is his opinion what it should go for. So right there, I had to stop myself.
Sure. The deal
Because
already
all of a
doesn't make
sudden,
sense.
there's a big difference when it comes to rental real estate, where you're putting money in every month versus it paying you a little bit of money every month.
Right.
And that's where I just had to pump the brakes.
Sure.
If I bought this and put money into it for a couple of years, I'm sure the rents would eventually go up over time, and it would eventually start to cash flow. That's how these things work.
Yeah.
But it's not guaranteed.
Right.
And that is one of my other pieces of criteria that's pretty heavy. It's got a cash flow.
Right.
I can't keep putting money into stuff. I've got things. I have to have the stream coming my way.
I agree. I think that's really great. Of course, that's what we all want. We want cash flow. We don't want a negative on this stuff.
But it's easy to get your emotions to pull you one direction, because I almost just wanted to pull the trigger anyway.
Right.
But because it fit almost every single criteria out of a lot of criteria. Like, we're talking 20 buttons here.
Sure.
That is pushing. But the one thing is it didn't cash flow.
That's the most important button, though, too.
Right. But sometimes when you get all these other your brain will play tricks on you.
Will.
Hey, annually, this is going to make you money because your taxes.
Right.
Like the
You're gonna
depreciation.
get the depreciation, right.
And you try to convince yourself that you're right. You're right. this will save me money on my taxes. So in essence, it will cash flow that way.
It's a paper deal.
But it's not upfront.
Right.
It's not upfront cash flow. It doesn't fit that box. So I got to look for the next deal.
Right. And that's A-okay. And the other thing like I was going to talk about was $35,000, I'm assuming, goes to the wholesaler and to the owner. Is that kind of...
And the realtor.
And the realtor, that pays all your fees type of thing? Mm-hmm. So what if you were to come with like $55,000 and put $20,000 towards the mortgage?
The mortgage payment stays the same.
Mortgage payment stays the same, even though you're paying down principal?
Yeah, the mortgage payment's already... It's a sub-2 deal.
Okay.
So the mortgage is already in place. Mm-hmm. The mortgage payment's not going to go down by putting more money into it. It would just pay down the principal balance. Mm-hmm. So you would owe a little bit less, but the payment stays the same.
Okay. I'm having a hard time figuring that out, but that's...
This is the way all mortgages pretty much work.
Sure.
Whenever you're making more than the minimum payment,
Mm-hmm.
that extra bit of cash just goes to pay down
No, you're right.
the
I
principal
apologize.
balance.
Yes, okay.
No, it's okay.
Okay. For some reason, I was thinking, you pay down a whole bunch of it, then you probably have to refi in order to get a different payment, but you don't want to do that.
Yeah, but this was a
You don't wanna do
3.25% fixed for the next 28 years.
Okay.
All the stars aligned except for the cash flow. Mm-hmm. And that's one thing I just can't negotiate with anymore.
I understand completely.
Yeah.
I will say, so we've done the Empowered Investor event with Jason Hartman. You ever check out any of those deals?
Here and there, but I wasn't too impressed. When we actually did the bus tours and got to see those homes, it wasn't an area I wanted to invest in after I got to see what these new construction properties look like.
Right.
Because it was... The quality seemed very poor to me.
Yeah, those ones are just the ones in Florida.
Like, yeah, Ocala.
But they do Kansas
also-
City and they do Alabama and stuff as well. So
And then you got to look at like some of the tenants that were renting these places. And I don't, do you remember them like coming out on out on their front porch with their shirts off and
do you
big
blame
bellies?
them? It was like this huge bus charter that came down this rural street and they're like, what the hell is happening?
I know. But those are your customers.
Right.
I don't want them as customers.
Sure, and that's fine. But what I'll say is, like, after this episode, we should take a look at a couple of those because some of those make sense.
Okay, we can take
on
a
a
look.
number standpoint.
Yeah,
just like,
I
okay,
do like new construction.
Yeah,
I like it a lot.
and that's something that I've been considering too. I'm like, oh shit, I could just put $30,000 on this, on a down payment on a $179,000 house in Alabama.
And a lot of these builders are offering incentives to buy down your rate.
Right, exactly. So if I do that, and then they give you, the pro forma for the cash flow and everything like that, they handle the management, and it's all a 1-year contract. I've talked to them a little bit, but your projected numbers are right on the screen. You just got to do your own due diligence, of course.
Yeah, I'll take a better look at
we'll
that.
look. But
Jason Hartman, shout out.
Yeah,
I like that guy.
I do too.
His hair needs work, but
Sure does.
reach out to me, Jason.
Right. Sorry about the hair comment. Nick's just kidding. But let's wrap this thing up a little bit, Nick. So, again, you're talking about leverage, and I want to say that I agree with you 100% because what you're doing has worked for you. It has worked in the past. Today's a new day, and I think people need to be looking at things just a little bit differently.
Sure.
Doesn't mean you need to change up your entire plan. The plan I have right now, save more money so I can buy more real estate.
Okay.
That's where I'm at. And pay down my shit so I can be in a better position to be able to just fire on a whim. To be honest with you, if a deal comes by, I've got the cash available, let's roll.
So based off the income you're bringing in and the goals that you have, when do you think you'll be able to purchase your next piece?
Good question. Partnerships are always an option. So anything where, you do need a partner who's a cash partner, I'd like to talk to you about it and see if that makes sense.
Okay.
But as far as purchasing our next deal, like my wife and I made a plan to save $100,000 this year. I don't think that's going to happen. But we're going to get pretty close.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right.
And then once we get close, we'll be in a better position to get financed, have a good down payment, find a property manager, find our contractors, and roll with a project. Hopefully a new construction is what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
NCs are awesome.
yeah, NCs, not GCs, NCs.
NCs, new construction.
New construction.
That's slang for new construction. You guys, come on.
No, I appreciate the back and forth today, Nick. I do think, again, you provide valuable intel as far as, being able to be leveraged. The typical American who makes, $100,000 to $200,000 a year and has a lot of debt might find what you do hard.
Right. But what they're doing isn't working.
I agree with you there as well.
Yeah.
But who knows what exactly they are doing and what intentions they're living. Like if you buy a car, that doesn't push you towards your goal. Take a vacation doesn't push you towards your goal. Like I'm constantly looking at all these things. Like, is what I'm doing going to push me to the thing I want?
I'm all about buying a really nice car. I spend a lot of time in the car.
Yeah.
If you're spending 2 hours a day in your car, which is average for a lot of people, that's a big portion of your life.
Yeah.
I'm a fan of buying a comfortable bed.
I agree with that.
And working a job that you love.
Let's talk so comfortable bed. Like you can go overly comfortable on a bed. You can buy a bed on Amazon that's pretty comfortable.
You spend 1/3 of your life in bed.
You do.
Why not make it a pleasurable experience?
Is that why you don't pay me back? Because you're buying beds and cars?
No, the cars actually save me money. The Tesla,
I get it. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I just don't pay you back because I know you'll never find me.
I'll never find you?
Yeah, you won't. I'm gonna hide under this desk. I'm just kidding. I didn't know you weren't enjoying your 12% returns. But now, after this episode, I know that Jeremy's a little irritated, and he knows he can get better returns with a mobile home park, so he's going to want his money back now. And he had to tell me over the air, along with everyone to listen.
I just gave a deal. That's all it is. Like the deal made sense when we did it.
Yeah, but now he's found other opportunities, and he wants more money. And he's not satisfied with his infinite returns. He wants more infinite.
Do you blame a guy? No. I'm like, this is the smart thing to do.
I give Jeremy shit.
We give each other
Last episode, I called him racist for no big reason.
You did. Stick around to the end of the last episode if you want to hear that. That's so dumb.
That was a dumb one.
So I want to say, thank you so much for checking out this episode with us. Whatever you choose, just be intentional about it and live the life, whether you want to buy cars and beds or save for an investment. Do whatever makes you feel good because honestly, like you have control over yourself. I don't care what you do. I just care what I do in my sphere.
And I'd like to say, you never know when you're going to die.
It's true.
So spend the money you have. Spend it wisely or unwisely. Who gives a shit? Spend it. You can always make more. Love you, everybody. Thanks for listening to this podcast.
I love you too.
Peace out.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for checking out the Investor Shed podcast. If you enjoyed your time, make sure to leave a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Follow along on YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram at The Investor Shed for shorts and promos about each episode. Do you want to be a guest or know someone who has great real estate investing advice and stories? Reach out to us at theinvestorshed@gmail.com.